Now, we're going to get to some other really important news on COVID in just a moment. But right now, some breaking news at the border. Despite Biden's denials of a crisis brewing, the New York Times is reporting just moments ago that the number of unaccompanied migrant children detained along the southern border has tripled in the last 2 weeks alone to more than 3,250. More than 1,360 of the children have been detained beyond the 72 hours permitted by law before a child must be transferred to a shelter. Joining me now is Senator Tom Cotton, and I know he wants answers here. Senator, why is Joe Biden waiting until later this week for a briefing from his team on this growing security, health-related, and humanitarian crisis of his own making?
Hey, Laura, it's good to be on with you, and that's a great question because we have a crisis at the border. This is the Biden border crisis. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats may not think it's a border crisis because they don't believe in borders. So they, by definition, don't think there can be a crisis at the border. But the American people know that we have a crisis there. And this was altogether predictable, in fact, predicted. I said last year during the campaign, you cannot promise amnesty and open borders and health care for illegal aliens and not expect a migrant crisis at our border. And what's happened, not just in the last few weeks, but every month since the election, we've seen increased numbers at our southern border. And they sent a team down this week to ask about whether or not there were enough teachers there or what the accommodations were for kids. How about the team ask, what are we doing to stop it and to turn these migrants back and to tell them this is not the way to come to America?
Senator, the press secretary for President Biden today said that they have to basically be better with their messaging on this. Is this a messaging problem when you have 80 kids, 30 kids who are under the age of 13, some of whom are kept in these cement cells that they were getting on Trump for having to keep people in temporarily until he basically solved the border problem?
No, Laura, when a politician tells you they have a messaging or communications problem, what they really mean is they have a reality problem. And their reality problem is that they created a crisis at our southern border by inviting the entire world to show up and claim asylum. Look, Donald Trump turned away people who were seeking asylum and told them to stay in Mexico and that their claims could be adjudicated in an orderly fashion from Mexico. Joe Biden's administration is seeking out those illegal aliens that Donald Trump turned away and inviting them to come back to the border enter. Like, we've gone far beyond catch and release. This is recruit and release. They're specifically recruiting illegal aliens who we already turned away once to come back so they can be let go into the country. Almost all of these claims will be rejected. The simple fact is, if you're from Central America and you're seeking asylum, you do that at the southern border of Mexico. When you get all the way to the southern border of the United States, you're no longer seeking asylum.
No.
You're seeking a better job and better living conditions.
Yeah, remember, they were sent out of the United States immediately during COVID because we're not supposed to be bringing people into the country who are potential COVID risks. But that was suspended, done away with by President Biden. All right, Senator. Now, a little over a year ago, I remember this. You were getting hammered for suggesting that COVID originated in a Wuhan lab. But now Josh Rogan today revealed that in 2018, diplomats warned of risky coronavirus experiments in the Wuhan lab, and the U.S. government had evidence that the labs were performing gain-of-function research on a much larger scale than was publicly disclosed. Has the NIH explained why the Trump administration was kind of left with that order by the Obamas to relieve us of the suspension of gain of function? Because it was suspended in the United States for a number of years, and then it was resumed at the end of the Obama administration.
Yeah, the NIH has not explained that, and they have some explaining to do, Laura. I mean, there's been recent emails and other correspondence turned up through Freedom of Information Act releases that show the NIH was more focused on coordinating their message with China and not offending Chinese sensibilities than they were on getting these facts out before the American people. The existence of these cables goes back to Josh Rogan's reporting last year. Diplomats went to Wuhan in 2018, and they discovered, shocking surprise, that Chinese labs sometimes have shoddy, sloppy safety practices. Look, even back in the SARS crisis about 20 years ago, we knew that some of the viruses that had caused SARS cases had escaped because of negligence and incompetence at labs. And when you combine incompetence and negligence on the one hand and communist malevolence on the other hand, what you get is a once-in-a-century global pandemic.
Well, and we'll find out more about this as time goes on, if China actually allows us to, but I'm not holding my breath on that either. Senator, thank you for your work on the gain of function issue and on the border issue as well. Great to see you tonight.
Thank you, Laura.